Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I can't reach you. There we go.
There you go, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we need longer cords, G. I think that's what we've come to appreciate on the
Well,
back of this.
I did ask you to buy your own
I
earphones.
removed the wire, so I came up with the solution, mate.
In terms of a name, Tommy, the Unused Subs, what do you reckon about it? Pretty good name?
Well, Spoonley in a nutshell, isn't it?
I'm glad you and we're on the same page, mate.
What are you talking? Why am I coming into flack? You didn't even make it.
What do you mean? Yeah, but so I wasn't spending all of my days on the subs bench, was I?
I love how you just like said that and that's it. Like you just smoke bombed it and walked out the room, mate.
Well, a strong contender, I'll run this past you, Tommy. A strong contender initially was Sweeper Keeper FC because he's a keeper. I played a little bit of sweeper in my day, and sweeper keeper is a football terminology, and I thought, well, that's pretty good. It sort of incorporates the two of us, myself and Jacob. But the Unused Subs, I think, to your point, it fits with him, and I suppose it also fits in with me because I've been benched permanently by Sky. In fact, not even on the bench anymore, just like cut from the roster.
Well, in regards to sweeper keeper, have you seen his clip where he tries to?
Have I seen the clip?
Yeah.
Everybody's seen the clip.
Sorry for bringing that up, mate.
Speaking of, I'll change this real quick. So
Please get me out of this hole.
You left New Zealand's about 15, 16, mate?
16, yeah, 2006.
So from Westlake, straight to Ipswich. So I reckon there's this generation of footballers that missed out on playing in New Zealand. I mean, Boxy had stints here. There's, from anyone from about the age of 27 onwards, the chances were so limited because there was probably only about 2 or 3 players that were going to get contracts off Ricky. You've come back at the age of 33, I think it is.
34.
34.
I'll take that, though.
Yeah, 33, great.
Look younger than you are. Like it.
And now you've gone into this well-resourced, new, exciting football club. What's that like, just to play in front of friends and family and in the city that you grew up in, mate?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I've said it numerous times before that the city was probably crying out for it after so long without a professional football team. And like you've said there, you've touched on the way it's been done is so professional, so well resourced. They've thought about everything, like incorporating local clubs to get them on board, investing time and money into the local communities around Auckland. And obviously that's gone hand in hand with a great start to the season that we've had, which is testament to the football staff that they've brought in. Obviously Steve's proven pedigree at this level. Danny's obviously been very successful as a coach as well. And everything else that goes with that, and the office staff, and everyone's just pulled together and are on the same page in how successful they want the club to be, and it's been great to be a part of.
So you've sold the club there, just to jump in. You've sold the club really well, beautiful, box tick. What's it like just from a family perspective, mate, having the friends and family there? I mean, the guys you would have gone to school with, I mean, I can't believe Stu Hogg was the face that they pulled up in the Derby win, for example, so I have to look at him every time on a Sky promo. But being in your own city, mate, I think that's the kind of the angle that I'd love to hear about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Obviously, like you touched on there, friends that I've went to school with for years, my family come up from Papamoa every home game to support us, and I haven't been able to play in front of them other than for All Whites home matches over the years. So yeah, it certainly adds an extra dimension to that why, the reason why you play and what you're doing it for is to make them proud effectively. And to do that in front of them week in, week out has been excellent.
Got off to an incredible start. 6 wins from 6. It's like scarcely believable. We don't see that at all worldwide. Amazing stuff. And then there's been, like, I suppose, a little bit of a dip lately. If you want to sort of dig down deep into that for us a little bit, because the last 5 games, only 1 win, a couple of draws in there as well. What do you see as being like the main reasons for a little bit of a dip off the last month or so?
It's hard to put your finger on because I don't think the performances has been too bad other than the Western performance. We held our hands up there. We weren't good enough on the day. It's possibly been first half we've started slowly in games sometimes, which puts us on the back foot, especially if we concede a goal in that time. as we saw against Perth at the weekend. It's always tough when Perth are fighting for their lives down the bottom end of the table. So if they get a goal, they're going to cling on to it for everything it's worth. And we saw that. We did miss some good chances, but we can't be putting ourselves in those positions.
That Max Mutter chance, should have buried it, right? Should have buried it, Spoon.
Yeah.
If you were a goalkeeper once upon a time, that's the sort of opportunity that you pack yourself over, right?
No, absolutely.
So clear cut.
And I think just quickly, Ollie had a brilliant game as well, mate. Some of those saves are fantastic. But I think for Max, he hasn't played as much. And so potentially he's come in and he sees this as a big chance. He kind of sees the lights shining at that moment and potentially snatches it a little bit. I reckon if he's played a couple more games, gets into the rhythm, relaxes, knocks that one in nice and easy, and then it's 1-1 from that point, mate. So,
hey, listen, the hardest thing in football is to put the ball in the back of the net, and I'd be more worried if he wasn't in the position to score the goals. Then there'd be something to talk about. But listen, strikers miss chances all the time, the next one that comes, I'm sure he'll be ready and bury it. But like I say, if he wasn't getting in the positions to score the goals, then there'd be serious questions to be asked.
What's the bollocking like from Steve Corica if a striker isn't in the right position to score a goal?
Well, that's a lot of the thing we worked on early in the season when we weren't scoring as many goals, is we weren't getting enough numbers in the box and things like that. So we have been working on that, and it showed. We had really good chances. Sometimes you don't score the chances. You know what I mean? And that's football. Maybe the next game we win 5-0. We only have 5 chances to score all of them. So that's just football from
but nice
week
to
to
spread
week.
those over a couple of games, though, right? I always look back at that, and at the end of the season, you've scored like 50. You're like, maybe just give us 1 on that game, and we'll give it 3 more points. That's how my brain works, at least.
Yeah, you've got an interesting brain. Tommy,
Thank you,
Jacob, I want to play you this. 1-0 down against Perth, and then this happens.
Auckland have so many jerseys forward, so many bodies. A chance for the counter-attack. Joel and Asmo off at the races. Koulibaly in danger, and it's going to be a very short-lived debut. It's a straight red card for Adama Koulibaly. You see there, almost apologetically, what else could he have done? And Nasmo was away.
How do we feel about it? I mean, I've spoken to a few people who are like outraged that he's willingly given himself a red card there, Adama Koulibaly. But I suppose those people aren't football people and don't understand the situation of the game. You're 1-0 down, and there's still time to play, right, Tommy?
Yeah.
So you're more than happy with what he's done there, eh?
Yes, because I think firstly, I probably wouldn't have been able to catch him in the first place. But if I was in that position, I would have done the same thing, because he's through on goal. He's got all the goal to look at. Yes, AP might save it, but the odds are in his favour there. And if we go 2-0 down, it's game over. We haven't got enough time to get back into the game there. So I think he's done what I would have done, and I haven't got any qualms with that whatsoever. Because if we go down the other end in injury time and equalise, he's a hero for doing that. Yes, it hasn't worked out this time, but I think it shows a little bit of maturity on his part to have the thought to do that, because it is a professional foul. And like I say, if we go down and equalise, he's a hero. Unfortunately, we didn't.
Could he have done it earlier? Because it was like a foot race where he wasn't gaining and the Perth player wasn't getting away. He could have fouled him inside the Perth half.
Yeah, but he's also given himself time to get as close as possible.
Yeah.
Like, if he fouls him at halfway and he gives away the red card, then you're saying, well, why'd you make the challenge there? Whereas, is it Adama?
Yeah.
Just making sure I say that properly. Adama's trying to run him down. The boy's quite leggy. I mean, I'm not getting there. So he waits to the very last second to make the decision. And as Tommy said, he shows maturity in a pretty high-pressured moment. I think in some ways, and I'm speaking to my dad here, distinguished Professor Paul Spoonley, who was one of the grumpy ones, was like, why'd he do that?
The professor?
Yeah,
he's
the professor.
Smart enough to know better, isn't he?
I know, he's in Havelock North at the moment, enjoying the fruits of retirement. But in some ways, Tommy, I think it's actually quite selfless, because he's sacrificed his next game, or a chance of being involved in the next game, to give the 10 remaining players on the field a chance to get that equalising goal. And I think if that happens, to your point, a point away from Perth in this manner actually buoys the team to a certain extent.
No, you've said it spot on there. Yeah, exactly right. Like you say, he's shown maturity beyond his years, really. On debut as well. Must have been a hard decision for him to make.
Tommy, you spent a lot of time in the UK at Ipswich Town, now a Premier League team, and for a little while there, you were under the tutelage of Roy Keane. Now, I can't turn on my phone these days without seeing a reel of Roy Keane being a cuddly teddy bear on Stick to Football. But I know him as like a real aggressor, and he was somebody who was not to be messed with on the field of play. Your experiences with the fearsome Roy Keane, what were they like back in those days? We're talking 2009, 2010?
Yeah. So I was 19, 20 years old back then. Intimidating would be the word.
Right.
The first day he came in, nowadays managers would go, excuse me, our door's always open. If you ever want to chat, come in. He was the complete opposite. In his first meeting with the players, he goes, the decisions I make are final. Do not come and knock on my door to talk about them.
And no one's going to challenge Roy Keane on that, right?
No, exactly. But I think, and obviously I'm just speculating, but I think he found it tough that we as players weren't as good as he was when he was a player. And he found that tough to manage players that weren't up to a particular level. That's just from my point of view. But there are some good stories, though.
So was he quietly intimidating? Because he came from the school of Alex Ferguson and obviously had the hairdryer treatment tag attached to him. Did Roy borrow from that, or was he just kind of intimidating in a quiet way? Like you just stare at you and let the silence do the talking for him?
Both.
Oh, wow. He's got two gears.
In training, he didn't take a lot of the training sessions. He'd just sit back and watch and let the assistants take the sessions. But on match days, he'd let you have it with both barrels if he felt it was warranted. And there's some stories there where if you weren't in the moment, you'd just burst out laughing. Some of the one-liners he used to come out with, and some quite sort of on-the-edge stuff as well.
What's the top one that sticks in your memory?
It's quite a controversial one, but
go on then.
I remember, I think it was West Brom away, just lost 3-0, and these two Hungarian lads, and he just goes for them. Martin Fulop, who sadly passed away recently, a couple of years ago, and Tamas Priskin, and he just goes, you know what the problem is with you Hungarians? You've got no balls, and that's why you lost the war.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I told you it was controversial.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And then one for me personally, I think it was the last game of the season. I was playing left back, hadn't played there for a while, so obviously it's a different fitness, blah, blah, blah. I was blowing. And the opposition counter-attack, and I'm trying to get back. It's probably 60, 65 minutes on the clock. They score on the counter-attack. I get subbed, get dragged. Afterwards, Tommy, my nan could have run faster than you, and she's dead.
Is this in front of the team?
This is in front of everyone. So as you can imagine, you want to burst out laughing, but he's being deadly serious.
So have you got a smirk on your face at this
No.
point?
No.
All
Because if you do that, that's...
See, I'd have a smirk. I'd compound the issue, mate.
You're not playing for Ipswich Town, mate.
Anytime soon. So he's come into the changing room, gone dead quiet, and he's just picked you out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did he move around the room, mate?
Oh, yeah. So I'm just picking out... There's a small number here. Like there's
yeah. And look, here we are. You're 34 years of age. You're still like, I guess it's front of mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
What that guy did to you as a young man.
And you know what? He went light on me, like compared to some of the others. But I think he found it a good learning process at Ipswich, because when he went to Sunderland, his first management gig, they were the best team by far. They got promoted. He got into the Premier League. Then his second job was with us, and like I said, I just don't think he could get his head around the fact that we weren't quite at that level.
Yeah.
But I think he's even said when he went to be assistant manager under Martin O'Neill, that's his most enjoyable time from a coaching perspective. And I think he learned that not everyone's as good as him.
Yeah.
And he had to sort of bear that in mind in his coaching roles.
Despite that sort of uneasy alliance between the two of you, and probably between he and everybody else, he actually provided you with a bit of information about playing at World Cups and the opportunity that was in front of you if you wanted to take it with New Zealand. Tell us about that exchange and what your thinking was prior to taking up the opportunity with the All Whites.
Yeah, well, initially I didn't realise I was eligible because I'd represented England at youth age groups, and I didn't know the rules inside out. I just assumed that because I'd done that, New Zealand door was closed now. But obviously, I think it all came about through Rory Fallon, actually. So I played against Rory, Ipswich v Plymouth, and he said, do you know what, I think you're eligible for New Zealand. Like, what do you think? And I said, well, I'd be open to the idea. And the next thing we know, Ricky's obviously got wind of it. The processes have started, but then Roy Keane's pulled me in and said, listen, you know, England, New Zealand, what do you want to do? And I said, well, they've just qualified for the World Cup, so it's obviously that's a fantastic opportunity. And he goes, do it. Straight away. He said, you've got to do it. You'll regret it if you don't. And obviously I spent the majority of my football education was in New Zealand. So I've obviously been born in England, but spent a lot of time in New Zealand. So I did have split loyalties. Now, obviously, I'm fully bought into New Zealand and the culture that we've created at the All Whites. But it was a tough decision at the time to sort of leave behind a possible. I didn't know what was going to happen in the future, the England opportunities, having represented them at youth level. But so happy I made that decision, and the experiences it's given me, and yeah, it's something that will live with me forever. Obviously, the World Cup's a standout moment, but everything, you know, going to countries that I would never have dreamed of visiting, and the friendships I've made along the way, and things like that. You know, it's been a fantastic decision for me in my personal life as well as professional life.
And almost all down to Roy Keane. Who would have thunk it?
That's brilliant, though. I mean, that kind of perspective from a manager, and as you said, it was not qualified at all. It was immediate, and you just said you got to go. Which, thinking about it last night, I was trying to wrap my head around this, G, because he pulled out of so many island camps and had that massive bust up at the World Cup. So I was trying to navigate through how he was so committed or so invested in committing you to New Zealand and the World Cup possibility.
Yeah, well, I think obviously that all came down to his standards, didn't it? His professional standards that weren't being met by Ireland, and that's what I've learned from. Obviously, you read things, watch things, but I think he's very patriotic about Ireland. Obviously, he went back to work with the FAI again under Martin O'Neill. So obviously, that was all stuff that was behind the scenes, not to do with on the pitch stuff. I think if it was just on the pitch and the standards were there, he would have played for Ireland as much as he possibly could. Yeah.
Now, there's one period where Anthony Hudson came out quite publicly and said that you weren't committed to New Zealand. I think it was like 2014 to 2016, mate. I didn't know much about it, and I thought it'd be a good chance for you just to explain the ins and outs of that one, because having spoken to you a lot over the last couple of years, as you said, you're very invested into the All Whites environment now, part of the Kaitiaki group, set the tone, obviously relationship with the NZPFA. So again, it's quite hard for me to understand why he would make those comments, mate. So was it a challenging period?
It was. It sort of started off the back of the Mexico fixtures, the playoff way back in, when was that, 2013? So I had an issue with New Zealand football at the time where they basically forced me to miss a club game because the window got moved, and I would have missed about 12 hours of time together with the All Whites, and that sort of stuck with me, and I do regret it now, to be honest. It cost me a lot of caps, a number of experiences, and I sort of, I don't know what the right word is. I was probably too immature at the time to deal with it. If it had happened now, I would have acted completely differently, because I now appreciate that it's bloody important as well. You know, I don't want to miss any camps. I think if you speak to Darren Bailey now, I'm the first one to say like how invested I am with it, and I love it. And I think back then as well, it wasn't such a cultural thing. You know, we've brought in, and this is no slight on Anthony Hudson at all. You know, I got on really well with him. Obviously, he took me to Colorado and things, but there wasn't the cultural aspect to the All Whites that there is now. In terms of now we do the Whanonga Tonga, and the buy-in that gets from all the individuals that are into camp. It just adds a dimension that I don't think any other country would have. And since Danny Hay brought that into the All Whites environment, it really hit home just how important it is, not just to the players that are there, but to the country as well. You know, we're representing New Zealand, and I think it took longer than it probably should have done for that to sink in with me, but since it has, you know, I'm fully invested in it, and I think even shows, I haven't been getting as many minutes as I would have liked with the All Whites recently, but I want to be there every time, and I want to give as much as I have off the pitch. If I'm not going to be involved on it, I try and bring as much as I can off the pitch.
Well, Tommy, speaking of giving everything, got this clip of you against Mexico, and Mexico, that was a hard slog, wasn't it? It was horrible,
mate.
What was it, 9-3 on aggregate? Trying to qualify for the World Cup of 2014.
Yeah.
But this piece of vision speaks to your undying efforts to try and protect that goal. Yeah, the sacrifice to protect the goal at all costs.
I'm on the bench, just in case you guys.
Of course you are.
Either side players with skill, with pace, who can go past players.
Well, they ask for the offside flag. It's not coming. Mexico looking for 4. Mexico, great save on the line. Durante comes away with possession.
Now, what are we seeing here, Tommy? Is that shin? Is it knee? Is it ankle? Or is it the Holy Land?
It looks full body.
I think it was a thigh. Yeah, right on the outside of the thigh.
You're probably travelling at like 30 k's an hour, and then you slide into.
That's generous.
Okay, 25 k's an hour.
Yeah. No, listen. Every time I step foot on the pitch, I give everything I've got, and it doesn't matter if we're 3-0 down or 3-0 up. As a defender, you don't want to concede any more goals, and I think that's just in my mind.
Especially after that, mate, we'd conceded about 7 at that point in time,
obviously we're 3-0 down there, but I think it's just that's my mindset when I go on the pitch. I want to give everything I've got. I think that's the least you can do. From a technical perspective, you're going to make mistakes, but the one thing you can control is how much effort and work ethic and application and attitude that you give, and you can control that in every game. So that's something I always try and live up to.
All right. Shall we bring in Mr. Nelsen, eh?
How you doing, Nelly? You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. How you doing?
No, all good. All good, mate. All good.
He's just been a superstar down here, Nelly.
Oh, of course. He's lapping it up in all the glory of Auckland FC.
Top of the table, mate.
What do central defenders do when they hang out with each other? Because, you talk about the goalkeepers union, Nelly, and goalkeepers are crazy. Jacob Spoonley, case in point. Is there a thing with central defenders?
Prefer to think of myself as educated, but that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the most sensible, smartest ones of the team. We have to keep everything in order.
Jesus.
Completely agree with you, Nelly.
What did you think? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I used to play a little bit of central defence.
You just think we're brutes that just bang heads together, aren't you? Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then Nelly's
In
a
the lower
Cantabrian
leagues.
on top of that as well, mate. So there's further questions to be asked.
Yeah, and you made a good point, Spoon, the other day, which is quite incredible for you.
Thank you.
Because you're a Cantabrian, Nelly. If you were maybe like, let's say you were 2 or 3 inches taller, would we have lost you to football altogether? Because being from the flatlands of Christchurch, you may have played rugby from a young age.
I think I would have probably been a fast bowler for the Black Caps before rugby. Too many big guys that could hurt me in rugby. But if I had a bit more height, come off the long run, strikers could see me. Black Caps.
You and Shane Bond, mate. Is that what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. Opening the bowling, that's a dream. It was actually a dream. If I die, I would love to ask whoever God she is to say what would happen if I played cricket. That is honestly my dream.
Well, there we go, mate. That's answered it, because I thought we were going to get a back row of Richie McCaw and Ryan Nelsen, mate. That's what I was envisaging, Tommy. Because, I mean, he's intimidating.
Just threw a curveball at you there, didn't he?
He did, mate. I don't know how I feel about a fast bowler, Ryan Nelsen, coming in.
Hey, Nelly, I've got a piece of vision that I want you and I want Tommy to watch. It's from 14 and a half years ago. It's All Whites, it's Italy, you're up 1-0, and then a young Tommy Smith does this.
Terrible defending, isn't it?
He's barely touched him, Nelly.
Oh, he had a free header and he's pulled him down. Look at that. Pulled him, outrageous.
Come on, Nelly.
Kicked him in the head as he went past.
Nelly, is he getting anywhere near that ball?
I'm impressed that I've pulled him backwards and he's fallen forwards.
Remember
Original
that referee, Tommy? It's like from Guatemala or something. He was bloody starstruck, honestly.
Yeah.
He was an Italian fan. Like, I felt so sorry for Tommy as well. Right? You know, it was a terrible decision on one of the biggest stages. It was like, you know, young guy. You know, it's just horrible. I mean, you know, look, that's life. It happens and all that. But it was so blatantly obvious that, you know, gee whiz, it was. You can't feel bad if you do something like that, because it was.
What was obvious, Nelly? What was obvious, mate? Was it the fact that he was never getting to the ball, or the fact that the touch was so minimal that it didn't justify falling over? Which part?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. You know, if this is where VAR, I do like VAR, and if there was a VAR, they would have gone, no chance, let's go, or they would have pulled it back or something. You know, this is ridiculous. So, you know, VAR has its obviously its weaknesses and everything like that, but for blatant obvious mistakes, that, you know, that would have been sorted. So, but you know, like again, it made Tommy kind of defined Tommy who the man he is right now, isn't it? He just became bigger and better after that. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, speaking of bigger and better, mate, you still had a decent chunk of the game to go. So as a 19-year-old? 20-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh, great with dates and ages.
Numbers and things, yeah.
Words, not numbers. So how did you get through the rest of the game? Because let's remember that they're the reigning World Cup champions at the time. And Smeltzy's put us ahead, which apparently, Nelly, if you go back to the VAR point, that would have called him offside. So we're not going to get too much
Forget
into
about
the
VAR.
VAR's
Forget
not
about
here.
VAR. We've got the euphoria of being ahead.
Yeah, we've got the euphoria of being ahead. Then that happens, and that's deflating for a plethora of reasons. How then do you manage your way back through into the rest of the game?
Oh, listen, the number of times I've been booked in games and you just get on with it. Obviously, you know that you can't make another challenge that warrants a yellow card, but no, you just move on and yeah, as simple as that, really, right, Nelly?
Yeah, I do think Tommy handled it so well for a young guy. I don't think at 20 years old I would have been able to probably manage that out as well. I would have lost my head and tackled somebody recklessly or something. But, you know, also had Reedy as well, who was another young guy at the time. And, you know, it was for those guys, it's, you know, I was 32, so it's a hell of a lot easier. But I couldn't imagine doing it at that age. I think.
Oh. What was it?
Well, it's transfer window time. And we'll get onto that in a second. I think Nelly might be receiving a few messages and a few calls.
No, listen, going back to that point, I think as a young player, you're almost fearless anyway. You know, really, I think probably if I was 30, 32, it might have affected me differently. You probably feel the responsibility more when you're an older, more experienced player than at that age. I was just like, oh, we'll just get on with it. It happens, just get on with it. You know,
we're going to score again. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, just as a young player, I don't think you think, oh, what are the consequences going to be? You're just on to the next moment.
Yeah, right.
Because going back to the World Cup, I think I didn't realise the importance of it until it was the next World Cup and we weren't at it. And I was watching it and I was thinking, wow, we did that. So I just think I was in the moment, living in the moment and not worrying about, oh, what if I get another yellow card?
In that moment, Tommy, how important was Ryan Nelsen to you? I mean, you say that you were young and fearless, but you've got an inspirational skipper in Nelly. He's playing Premier League football, and he's there to help guide you through that awkward moment?
Absolutely. You know, he's the model of consistency and the levels of performances that you gave, Nelly, were just something that we could hang our hat on, and we knew that we could rely on you to get both me and Winston alongside you. If we were making errors, you'd cover our backsides. nearly saw them, but no, to have you there for me was immense, really. You know, I wouldn't have been able to play at the level I did in those tournaments without you alongside me, for sure.
I've got to admit, it was a hell of a lot easier having two really, you know, good young players beside you, because they listen to you when they're young. So they don't know any better. So that helps. But it was you know, they were fantastic players, and so like they didn't make very many mistakes, which was really good, and they're very consistent. And you know, in those tournaments, you just want to just no big mistakes is really the key. You just be consistent and do your job, and they did, and they were amazing. You could see the futures that both of them were always going to have, because of how and great young men they were. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, like, I think that's the job. I always looked at the job of a captain really is to make 10 other players play to their best of their ability. If you can do that, then good things generally happen. And it's trying to bring everybody up, and like that was pretty much my goal, was just trying to make everybody happy. And everybody's a wee bit different, so you just got to sort out the personalities. And once you get everybody kind of in that kind of same mindset, you get on the field and there's a trust, and there's like you like each other, and there's a good camaraderie. Yeah, it's just generally good things that happen. But I don't think it's rocket science. It's just I suppose that was probably, when I look back, that was probably my strength as a player. Actually, it's just other people played better when they were around me. I didn't really play better, but everybody else seemed to do. So.
Because you're already at that level, mate. You couldn't get any better. Look,
I'd peaked. I'd maxed out.
Look, you were no doubt inspiring players like Winston and Tommy, but at the same time, you were inspiring a nation of football lovers like myself. Like I played the game, and to watch you progress from the States and then head over to the English Premier League, and to see a New Zealander going up against some of the best strikers in the world, Nelly, like that inspired me. Probably a little bit late to influence my football career, because by that stage I was sort of getting into broadcasting and I'd shelved the football stuff. But to see a Kiwi doing it at that level, week in, week out, was so inspiring. You have no idea how much that meant to me and so many other youngsters around New Zealand. And what I want to talk about here and now is, what did it actually take mentally, physically, emotionally to make it in the English Premier League? Because you did it, and unfortunately for Tommy, he was so close, he didn't make that step up. So we'll get to Tommy in a moment, but first of all, Ryan, can you tell us what it was like being an English Premier League player for as long as you were?
Yeah, it's not as look, it's tough, because pretty much everybody in the world wants your job. Everybody below you in the leagues wants your job. Everybody kind of, it's the top of the pyramid, right? So it's extremely tough mentally and physically, and so you've just always got to every day just try and get better and better and better, because if you don't, somebody's going to knock you off. Somebody's going to take your position. So mentally it's hard as well, because you've got to be at your best every single game, or you'll be found out, and they'll score off you and you're done. And it's like, it's really physically, mentally draining. So it's it's not easy, but it shouldn't be easy, right? So that's what happens when you at that kind of top end. I think what helped me was that I'd failed so many times. Like, I'd made so many mistakes for years that every game was a bonus. So there was always a World Cup final for me every single Premier League game, and if it ended tomorrow, I was really happy. If I had played one game or whatever. So there was like, yes, there's a lot of pressure, but I never really put the pressure on myself, because I'd hit the jackpot. I was quite happy playing for Christchurch United. I wanted to play cricket, and then next thing you know, you're Premier League, so I'd hit the jackpot.
You're like New Zealand's answer to Nick Kyrgios in that sense. I mean, he's such a good tennis player, but he wants to play basketball.
He's like sexy indifference, really, isn't he? He's not too phased about what happens, so he just plays in such a relaxed manner.
But one of the things Tommy, I'd like to say is, there are players like Tommy could, Tommy was a Premier League player, and and sometimes you also need a little window of opportunity, some luck. I got that on the way, I got luck, and sometimes there's so many players who at that level are all trying to crunch up into that small little pyramid that sometimes might not get the window but I played alongside players who were not as good as Tom. So, but they got their little access in there and ended up playing, 30, 40 Premier League games, and then obviously moved on. But no, so sometimes it's luck as well. You've got to be in the right place at the right time.
Well, what was that luck, Nelly, for you?
For me, I had a young manager who from Wales, like Mark Hughes at the time. I think he needed, there was a lot of old mentality, old professional mentality, British mentality, which is a lot of kind of at that time was drinking and just kick crap at each other, and so they didn't really have a naive, positive, Kiwi. They just come in blue-eyed and just wanted to train and play, and I just wanted to play all the time and train all the time, and I just got lucky. That's what that young manager wanted as well. So. If it was another manager, if it was a Harry Redknapp at that time, he would have gone, no, I need a more experienced type British person who knows the league. I wouldn't have got a chance, but I just got lucky. So
I have heard as well that there was tape of you defending Thierry Henry, which was obviously a massive headache for Premier League teams at the time. Did that help?
Yeah. What do you mean when we played against France?
Yeah, in the Confederations Cup. That's the story that I've been told, that they were looking for somebody that could nullify Henry, who could rip you apart single-handedly at that time.
Yeah, and France beat us 5-0, and but I had a good game against them, and only because I was just panicking for 90 minutes, literally sheer holy shit, for 90 minutes against arguably the greatest French team world has ever seen. So it wasn't just Henri, but I had a good game with them. And when they went through the video, they saw that, and then they saw me training and my trial kind of there. But in all honesty, it was such. You've seen it, Tommy, in some of these English teams that they go there, they do the bare minimum, they drink, they boom, but and it's just you did it. They wanted to get out. Mark Hughes wanted to get out of that. They wanted guys that are fit. They wanted to train. They wanted to get hold of it. This mentality's got to change. And he was from Wales, and he went up against all the Englishmen. He was a young Welshman, and I was a Kiwi going up against. So we saw a bit of that. Both like lamb, similar thing.
Bonded over meals.
Flip side of the coin.
Yeah, Tommy. I mean, how cool is it to hear Ryan Nelsen say that you were a Premier League quality player, but it was more about the circumstantial stuff, a bit of bad luck that took place throughout your career. Can you speak to that for us a little bit? What was the circumstantial stuff that led to you not making that step up to the top division in England?
Well, firstly, very kindly to say, Nelly, I appreciate the words, but I did come close. The playoffs in England is so cutthroat. The Championship playoffs is billed as the most expensive game in the world once you get to the final and all that. So we made the playoffs. We came up against Norwich, and I truly believe that had we not had a player sent off in the second leg of that game, that we would have beaten Norwich, who actually themselves went to get promoted in the final. And it's that fine margin. If we'd have beaten them that day and gone to the playoff final and get promoted, I could be sat here on 100-plus Premier League appearances. Because I've had players that I played alongside, as Nelly just touched on, that I probably felt that I was better than, that left Ipswich and went on to play a number of Premier League games. And you look at it and you're like, oh, I can do that. And like Nelly said, you just need an opportunity. And unfortunately for me, it never dropped my way. But listen, that's football. There's a lot of players that could have played a lot higher. Across the teams that I've played in, there's always players there where you're like, why have you not kicked on, and why are you not playing at a higher level? And for whatever reason, it doesn't happen.
Just on that, mate, because you're being very humble, you went through a period of 3 years where you finished up 9th, 6th in the second year, and then 7th. So you were, over the course of 3 years, marginally outside the lines. I think it was 4 points. You qualified for the playoffs, and then you were 3 points outside the championship, outside the Premier League qualification series. You scored in an East Anglian game, a qualifying game for the Premier League. How huge was that? Because that must be a powder keg.
Yeah.
The East Anglian derby is massive for those that aren't aware of it. Norwich against Ipswich, right?
Yeah. No, it's a big game, obviously, for that part of the country, and to score in it was probably one of the highlights of my career. For the individual moment it was. We went on to lose the game, which is always a bit of pill to swallow, but for that individual moment, it was brilliant. And I think that if you ever see the clip of me, I run almost the full length of the pitch back towards where the Ipswich fans were congregated.
Did you Adebayor the moment?
Well, the opposite of Adebayor. Adebayor did it to the opposition fans, but I did it to my own fans. And brilliant moment. Obviously, I had my family in the crowd, and obviously people that you know from living in the area for so long. But yeah, unfortunately, just couldn't quite get over the line to reach the holy grail of the Premier League.
What about a transfer, mate? Because I know that Nelly was influential in a number of young Kiwis' careers. Did he ever try and get you into Blackburn?
I don't know, to be honest. I've never asked him that question.
I'll make it more open then. Was there an opportunity that you were going to get transferred into the Premier League?
Not directly to the Premier League. I think there was moments where I think one pre-season Crystal Palace were interested. It didn't materialise. They got promoted that season. So again, it's one of those moments where what if?
Do you, don't you?
But listen, I've got no regrets over my career. You know, a lot of people would give a lot to have the career that I have. You know, I'm very sort of proud of what I've achieved, and yes, it maybe could have been better, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Ryan, on the subject of New Zealand central defenders, Tyler Bindon is someone you know very, very well. Has he got what it takes to make it in the English Premier League at some point in the near future?
Yeah, look, there's a long way to go, obviously, but the answer is yes. I mean, he ticks pretty much every box to what is required to play at that level. So if he keeps going the trajectory he's going, he will arguably be the best ever player that's ever played for New Zealand. It's as simple as that. Wow. He's got everything that is needed, and some, to play at that level. Now that doesn't mean, Tommy's point he just made, that doesn't going to make it, because there's a lot of variables that do occur, injuries, luck, managers, all this sort of stuff. But if you had to just, put down a list of what needed to play at even Premier League level, but elite level, say Champions League level, potentially he's got pretty much all of them. I'm a bit high.
What's his best attribute then?
I think I would say his best attribute right now for a modern day centre back is his ability to play through lines and calmness under pressure with the ball. There's some stuff on the defending side that he does naturally is extremely good. But ultimately, actually, probably the biggest thing is that from where he was 18 months ago to where he is now, there's been just a phenomenal kind of trajectory going up in a really lovely, consistent way. And as I say, if he just keep following that trajectory and all with his, he's got height, he's got speed, he's got both feet, he can play with the ball, he's not pressured, he's not, Tommy's been with them in national teams days, so he might be able to say even more. But for me, I don't want to put pressure on the kid, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Hey, listen, for me, it's his willingness to learn as well. It's all well and good having all these attributes, but his attitude to wanting to improve and to learn is what stood out for me, alongside his attributes that Nelly's just listed there. And I think, like you say, the world's his oyster, for want of a better saying, but he's impressed me massively. And listen, it's probably counterproductive to my situation in the national team. He's come in and taken my place, really. But I tried to help him as much as possible as well. Obviously, he's still learning, and he's a great kid. He's a good person first and foremost, which is testament to his family. But that willingness to learn will take him far. If he can keep hold of that and keep improving, like Nelly says, he can reach the top for sure.
Wow.
There's been a lot of mail about him going in this transfer window, Nelly. And just to set the scene, Reading aren't in a great financial position, so they are a club that's looking to
like some
sell.
Cash, yeah.
They would like some cash. I'm not sure if the administrator is still in charge or whether they've returned to the ownership around the management. That said, Nelly, you are part of his management team. Is the noise real at the moment? And is there a chance that he might be looking at a move up the tier at this point in time?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely real. It's first of all, there's a monstrous list of clubs that want him in. But you've got to look at actually what's best for his development, what's best for the next 18 months. He's still only 19, about to turn 20, but it's all about actually finding the right football path that just continues his development like he's been doing for the previous 18 months. Now there's a bit of Reading is in that financial situation. He's only got 6 months left in his contract, so there's some stuff that Reading have to kind of go through themselves before we can kind of move on. But let's just say, I think by the window, he'll be in a very, very good position. But in terms of number of suitors that want Tyler, the list is too long.
Wow. Well, look, you've spoken highly of him, and we certainly cannot wait to see what the future holds for Tyler Bindon. But let's talk about what's been and the present. And Tommy, I want to know from you, first and foremost, we've had, 6 Kiwis play in the English Premier League. Ryan is one of them, Winston Reid, Danny Hay, Chris Wood,
Simon Elliott,
Lee Norfolk.
Chris Killen.
Who played, Lee Norfolk was an Ipswich Town guy. So of all of the New Zealanders, Tommy, and I know that you're best buds with Chris Wood, and Ryan Nelsen is your central defender buddy, and he's on the call.
Nelly's on the call.
Who's the best to do it, mate?
It's very sort of subjective, because obviously goal scorers get all the
I'm just looking for a name, mate.
Don't be bullied here, Tommy.
Goal scorers
stand up
get
to
all
him.
the plaudits.
Don't be bullied.
No, listen, look, Nelly was the sort of pinnacle.
I'm talking about Goran, not Nelly, by the way. Don't you be bullied
Nelly
by
was the pinnacle of what
I couldn't bully anyone, mate.
all New Zealand players wanted to get to what Nelly did. Winston followed in Nelly's footsteps, did a real good job for a long period of time. But I think what Woodsy's done and is continuing to do probably puts him just above. And I think it's hard because he's a goal scorer. He gets the headlines and the plaudits and everything,
And he's your
everything
best
that
bud.
comes with that.
And you're going
He's
against
my best
him.
mate. So I think if he can continue to do it, it probably Woodsy. But I think Nelly obviously set the platform to be able to do that, and for people to consider Kiwis to be Premier League players. You've opened the doors for Kiwis to follow in your footsteps, Nelly. But
I'm absolutely completely offended, Tommy. But no, I absolutely agree with you. I think for me, Woodsy's done. I've said it multiple times in the media. Is not getting the recognition it deserves back in New Zealand. You don't score 10 plus Premier League goals consistently and not be the best. Like there'll always be a centre back or a right back somewhere from New Zealand that's going to go to the Premier League. It'll happen. Midfielder or something. We may never see a striker score 10 plus goals consistently year after year.
He's running down Duke's, Nelly.
Yeah,
He's running down Mark Viduka's Premier League record. It's amazing.
We might never ever see that again. And so that puts him, for me, not just a wee bit, miles ahead. Like, Reedy was me, then Tyler will kind of come in, and there's all centre backs that always be. There'll be right backs, left backs, whatever. But strikers to do that, done. He's miles ahead, and he's done it. He's awesome, and he's done it in such a cool way, in a humble way, and I've got so much time for him. It's not even a question.
I love that. Love that, G.
Oh, man. We've just got humble Kiwis playing the English Premier League. No big deal. Nelly, thank you so much for your time, mate. And I know that the technical issues that you put up with were, they would have turned off a lot of people, but you're stuck in there, and we're so grateful, mate. Awesome to see you, and we hope to see you down here in March, maybe?
Yeah, March. Now we've got to have you in person, mate. If you're down in March, you're doing an episode. Done deal.
And then you don't have to worry about the phone and the Wi-Fi and the technology.
And Tommy can buy me a beer for... He's still playing. Look at him down on the bloody Auckland. Still looking
Yes.
Yes. Keep going, mate. It sucks when you're retired. Keep going.
nice one, Nelly. Good to speak to you, mate.
Thanks, Nelly, mate.
Guys,
Good on you, bud.
see ya.
So good to see your old bud, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously, he's an inspirational figure for New Zealand football. So whenever you get the chance to speak to him, you listen.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to go through your starting 11 with Tommy?
Yeah, go on, mate. So we've got to... So
And here's your starting 11.
Thanks to Jason Pine, of course.
Jason Piney's in. Look
Thanks,
at you
Piney.
with all the production
Look,
value,
I'm trying
mate.
my hardest, mate, to make this a good thing.
The worst ground you've ever had to travel to?
Halifax.
What is your pre-match meal?
Beans on toast with poached eggs.
All whites roommate.
Chris Wood.
Chris Wood, come on. You didn't have to ask that.
Hey, this is my segment. Bugger.
Okay, sorry.
Golf handicap.
Officially 11.8.
Yeah, I love that. Officially. Yeah. Mine officially is worse. Good. The place that you want to go back after you finish playing?
Oh, what, a city or?
Anywhere, mate. You pick.
I'd love to go back to Venice.
What was your first New Zealand club?
Papamoa FC.
Papamoa FC. Favourite non-footballing athlete?
Probably over the years, the most impressive for me would probably be Tiger Woods.
Yeah. That record that he had for like 5 years, mate, is unbelievable. The movie that you go back and watch for the first time?
The Departed.
Great shout.
That's a great movie.
The team you supported growing up?
Liverpool.
Love that. You can
Good
take
man.
that with you, man. Thanks
no
to
wonder we're
Monk.
getting on so well, eh? We're all Liverpool boys.
Thanks to Monk FC, by the way. Top man. Worst injury that you've had?
I've had a couple of bad ones. Probably the worst one was a fractured dislocation of the ankle back when I was 18. Sort of foot facing one way.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, it was horrible. But managed to come back from that, and I've had a back operation as well. So I've had some gruesome ones.
Seized together to vertebrae?
It's a micro discectomy, so shaved vertebra and shaved disc.
Oh,
What?
God.
How are you still moving?
Last one, mate. Coffee order.
Flat.
Flat white. Love it.
white,
That's
yeah.
patriotic right there, G.
And here's your starting 11.
Starting 11 with Tommy Smith and Jacob Spoonley. And the hits just keep on coming as well.
Oh, it's hit off the post.
Which is...
Go on, Viney. Go on, Viney.
He sent me through about 3 different
Love
options,
that.
and I've gone with the ball breaker. In off the post, we've got viewer feedback, mailbag essentially. The first one's coming to us from...
Hey guys, Henry Rounce here over in the UK where it is absolutely freezing at the moment. Lots of mud around, a bit of ice, occasionally a bit of snow, which got me thinking, what's the worst football pitch that you've ever played on? And Goran, you can answer this one as well. Cheers guys.
Oh,
Great question from Henry.
yeah, well done, Henners. Great to hear from you. Tommy, you go first, mate, being the international and the near English Premier League
Should we
star.
dive down into why Halifax was so bad?
That was just the stadium and probably the time of year we were there. It was just horrible.
What about the surface, though?
The surface
worst
wasn't too
surface
bad.
you've
The
ever
worst
played on?
surface would probably be Burton Albion. I played there. When was I?
That's where Maxi is at the moment,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, but this was long before they were a football league club. I think I was on loan in the National League, and just the wide areas, there was no grass whatsoever, so it was a bit of a mud bath. So come on leaps and bounds since then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spoon, what about for you?
Vanuatu, not the main ground in Port Vila. We were on.
Oh, you're crapping on Oceania, are you?
I've forgotten all about the Oceania ones. Yeah.
So
you would too, would you?
oh, mate, there are some absolute grenades in there. But
Just concrete type pitches.
so
or
yeah, you've got to remember
bit
that these
bobbly?
aren't irrigated, so they've got grass on top. And what often happens is they'll mow the grass so it's level, but the ground underneath is undulating. Get into the goal mouth, which gets a lot of use.
You're going to roll a few ankles there, eh?
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the grounds outside. It was a backup field. So the two Port Vila stadium were not in use. Had to go out and play on this thing. It rained halfway through. And I don't think people appreciate how fast concrete can turn to slush in the islands. Oh, mate. Yeah, worst island pitch then, Tommy.
The Nations Cup just gone.
Yeah.
With every game taking place on the same pitch.
Kikuyu grass.
It took a beating, and it was difficult to play on, to say the least.
For me, because Henry did want me to say something.
You don't have to,
And
though.
I expected so much better because it's a private school. I played second 11 football against St Kentigern College in East Auckland, and it was like a river was running through the field. You just could not kick the ball. It was a
Mate,
joke.
It's not like that now.
No, we've got one more, and it's a famous name.
Kia ora, I'm James McConey, and I have a question for you. Flopping, diving,
Flopping.
simulation, call it what you will, but should Kiwi footballers be taught more how to sell a free kick these days? I'm not saying go full Neymar, but England's less stoic than they used to be. Aussies doing it. Should we be doing that too? teach them how to go down. Your thoughts?
Tommy, your thoughts?
Thank you, James.
They call it the dark arts, don't they? And I think it's not simulation if you do get contact. But listen, you don't want to be known as those sorts of players. But I do feel, especially in international football, that you get these decisions. If you get contact and go down, you get the decision. If you don't go down, you don't get the decision. So it comes down to winning and losing games at times on whether you do it or not. So
do you have to force the issue with the referee? Effectively, is what you're saying?
I think so. I think that's the way to influence them, and I think it's not really the nice side of football, but like I said, it's the dark arts. And if you can learn to be good at the dark arts, you can be successful.
Good place to leave it, Tommy Smith. Thanks so much for your time, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
job,
Tommy, mate. Cheers.